welcome to Dad Hammer Bolters and Booze, where we discuss all things Warhammer while staying hydrated with an adult beverage. I am David the Warboss, and we have a very special edition of Bolters and Booze. This is like an after-school special minus the school. So this is a very special edition, and the reason it's special is because we have a special guest. Very mysterious. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the excitement. So, of course, that is joined as always by Medicae Steve. Steve, I appreciate the background, the cheers. It's like it's like the audience during the pandemic, right?
That's right. Better living through positive thinking.
Well, our special guest is friend of the show and resident chief librarian, photographic memory, master of all rules lawyer, rules guru, and usually somebody that I look to for validation, but also frequently correcting me during games. Mr. Lawson, how are you, sir? Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. That's quite the introduction. I'm gonna have to make sure I live up to that very high standard you have set for me.
It's too late. It's too late already.
Yeah, it's done.
No takesies backsies. It's out there.
Well, just for those listening, Lawson introduced me to this wonderful game of Warhammer many moons ago, and took me a long time to actually defeat Lawson in a game of Warhammer. But eventually I did, and now I think I'm actually undefeated for 2023 against you.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah,
so far in the few games we have played.
I think we played one game.
Real.
Did we just play one game? One in a row is a streak, right?
Yeah. So we played one game, and then I've played Steve once as well. So
that's right.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna take it because Lawson, you are probably the best player in our group. So anytime I can do a 1-up, I'm gonna take it and milk it for all it's worth.
That's okay, and enjoy it while you can.
Thank you.
The reckoning is on its way. The space magicians.
Oh gosh, the stupid Thousand Suns, man. We'll get into that. That's one of the reasons that I invited you on the show, is eventually to talk about your circus magicians and all your fancy psychic powers, but we'll get into that later. We have a great show, and we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about Warhammer Day. That's a big thing coming up. Really exciting times, lots of predictions and rumors and our hopes and dreams and fears. I guess if you can have a fear in Warhammer, maybe to be incredibly disappointed during Warhammer Day and all the reveals. We'll talk about what we think is going to be coming on Warhammer Day. That is in a couple of weeks from now, middle of October. We have a discussion around the Space Marine Codex. So we have discussed this in the past, but now we've all seen it. We've seen what the detachments, the specific rules are going to be, and our new chief librarian, Lawson, on this show is going to go down into a couple of areas where he thinks it may be beneficial to our listeners to check out certain detachments in the Space Marine Codex. And then we'll also discuss the Combat Patrol battle reports. We had a few recently, some with some epic moments, I shall say, with one that I had with Steve, and one of the most insane games I've ever played. And we'll give some lessons learned. And spoiler, there's not a lot of lessons other than you just got to take it. It's a dice game.
just roll better, man.
Get good. Well, lots to talk about. We're going to get into it here. Thank you so much for listening to our show. If you like what you're hearing, make sure to rate, follow, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And of course, you can find us on our website, dadhammerpodcast.com, and all over social media. And we're going to start with the most important part of every Dad Hammer podcast, and that is, what are we drinking? Steve, you got the cocktail tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go first, and then
Sounds good.
And then we'll have I know guests go first. Guests are supposed to go first, but I mean it's
true.
It's Lawson. I've known Lawson for a long time, and
I'm not technically a guest at this point.
Oh, that's true. But it also sounds better.
You currently you hold the streak for most wins between the two of us, so I'll defer to you and allow you to go first.
Oh, the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You said you're gonna milk it though, so
Wow.
it's the one.
I appreciate the softball.
Yeah. Of course.
Well,
Right over the plate, man.
that's right. Well, I'm just drinking an old fashioned because I'm old and I'm old fashioned. Nothing too exciting, just some bullet bourbon, and I go with the simple stuff, the easy, the little mixture that you can get at the grocery store. Like that's what I usually go with for the old fashioned mixture, and then I put several maraschino cherries in my old fashioned because that's just how I roll. When I go out and I actually order the cocktail, I if I go to a restaurant or something, I always ask for cherries, and they never give me enough cherries. I feel targeted, and like they're not catering to my needs. I need multiple cherries in my old fashioned. But
Like
What's your
maybe an extra
definition of
tumbler full.
multiple?
yeah, exactly. Just give me an extra bowl and just dump them right over here. That's not weird at all, right?
No.
Nah.
Oh, okay, good. All right, Lawson, what you got tonight? What you drinking tonight?
Okay. So, unfortunately, I am way less prepared compared to you guys. However, in in the spirit of remaining the designated pilot for the group, I am just drinking Dr. Pepper.
That's not a
Don't-
problem. I like Dr. Pepper. Everybody likes Dr. Pepper. Who
Of
doesn't? Who
course.
doesn't like Dr. Pepper?
It has doctor in the name.
See, I'm
I mean-
catering to Mr. Medicae Steve already.
Yeah. But I don't appreciate the bias, right? I mean, why you got to go to Steve already? That's not cool.
Well, because you're my rival,
Yes,
so
I like it.
I take all the free help I can get.
All right.
You are his Lex Luthor.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad that you are the DD. You always need a DD. That's the Dad Hammer lesson number 74. I'll get to the other 73 eventually, but Dad Hammer lesson number 74 is always have a designated pilot for your podcast. All right, Steve, what you got for us tonight?
All right. Okay, it's been a struggle. I'm running out of cocktail ideas, so I'm gonna have to I had to really dig deep and find something that I would actually try for one, and two had stuff to make it. But I did find a good one. It's called a Jack Frost cocktail. But I decided to name it "There Are No Wolves on Fenris"
I love it.
because it's kind of space wolf
Yeah,
blue
yeah.
when you're done with it. Um, it's ounce of vodka, ounce of white rum, ounce of blue curacao, 2 ounces of pineapple juice, and cream of coconut to taste, which for me is 0. Um,
Not a big fan of the coconut, huh?
Yeah, it's okay. I like it, but I was just like, nah, I don't think so.
Oh, come on, man.
It's good. Well, see, I was I don't know why. I mean, I read the list of ingredients and I was like, oh, it's getting cooler. No, this is still sit by the pool
Okay. Okay.
flavor. But hey, man, had to go with what I had. But it looks like yeah, it looks like a frosty, cold weather, icy
Jack Frost.
ice world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Frost.
Well,
So
it's still like 85 outside during
Yeah,
the
this
day,
is true.
so I'm ready for the cold weather though. So bring on the wolves of Fenris.
there you go.
Yeah.
But I thought the name was fairly fitting. Sounded pretty good.
No, I love it.
Hadn't picked on the Space Marines yet, or the Space Wolves yet.
Well, according to the new codex, they're all one and the same now.
Yeah,
All right, Space Wolves, Space Marines. That's it. They're all just
Yeah.
generic now,
just
good or bad.
different
Yeah, a little bit different.
different colors.
Well, you enjoy your. There are no wolves on Fenris. That's a mouthful. I gotta.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Probably not going to order that in a local bar.
Well, you enjoy your cocktail. I enjoy my old fashioned. Lawson, thanks for driving us home. Cheers and bottoms up.
Cheers.
All right, let's get into the news. We've got Warhammer Day coming up. Very exciting. For those that are unaware, this is like the just a holiday that is not really a holiday. I mean, but it is like the big announcements, the big day, I think they just completely made it up. Right? It's just Warhammer Day. Hey, let's announce some stuff. You know,
and on a random day in
that's
October.
right. Also, Orktober. Happy Orktober for everyone that
True
celebrates.
story.
I celebrate.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Warhammer Day coming up October the 14th. They'll do a big online preview. They'll talk about new releases and reviews and all kinds of stuff. So I thought it would be cool before we get into some predictions and rumors, because those are all over the internet now. I thought it would be cool to talk about what they announced last year. So I went out and looked up the 2022 announcements for Warhammer Day. Then they announced the Astra Militarum box set, which I thought actually looked really, really good. They did a complete
Mm-hmm.
revamp of the guard models and made me kind of slided to me like, man, those look really cool. I considered it and then looked at my backlog of all the models that I have to put together and paint. And then I thought, no, I guess I'll hold off. But they announced the new box set. They showed off a new World Eater model, the Lord Invocatus. That's got to be it, right?
That
Um,
sounds right.
it was a cool World Eater model. They also showed off the boarding actions terrain, which I think, I mean, I know Steve, I bought that, and worked through trying to assemble all that stuff and paint it, and never wanted to do it again. um,
No way.
they showed off the Arcs of Omen narrative, that really cool thing about Abaddon, and they teased Vashtor from the Warhammer Day
Mm-hmm.
last year. They showed off some Kill Team stuff with Shadow Vaults. So that was all of the announcements last year. So pretty cool. Kind of a mostly geared towards 40K,
Mm-hmm.
with more of the narrative stuff going on. But I don't know. I remember last year. I remember looking at this and thinking, wow, this was a good Warhammer Day. Lots of good stuff announced. So, with that in mind, I thought it would be cool for us to discuss what are our predictions, what are our rumors. You know, Lawson, since I made you go in the middle instead of going first, I'll go with you first. Any predictions for this upcoming Warhammer Day?
I mean, they've got a lot of stuff kind of going around. Nothing that stands out specifically to me. If I had to guess, they've been talking about Necrons a lot, and kind of going down that road.
Yeah.
We're definitely due for some Dark Mechanicum models,
Oh
some
man, I hope.
Chaos Mechanicus.
I hope so.
Man, but they've just kind of talked about that, danced around it. It's never been an official faction though, right? I mean, in past editions,
True.
never Dark Mechanicum's never been a thing, but it seems like with Vashtor and the other like Forged Fiend and all that kind of stuff, it seems like they would have at least a faction of some kind or a spin-off of Chaos Space Marines for Dark Mechanicum. I think that'd be really cool.
We're due for one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's been too long. They also would be kind of cool to flesh out some of the other Chaos factions. Like I know we kind of have the Emperor's Children. You can sort of play
Mm-hmm.
them. They have 2 or 3 models, and you can build around that. But fleshing out things like that, fully fleshing out the Emperor's Children or the Night Lords or other of the Chaos factions would be really nice
Mm-hmm.
instead of having to weirdly supplement them in.
Yeah, it just feels a little forced sometimes, you know.
Yeah,
They all have great characters in each of those that would, if nothing else, put out some of the extra main characters. I like your Night Lords thought. Just finishing up the Night Lords trilogy books, and
such
yeah,
a good series.
that would be really awesome to see some Night Lords added to the Chaos Space Marines for sure.
Yeah, that was a really good series. I've read that series,
Mm-hmm.
or well, listened to that series. It was fantastic.
Well, you know what's funny is that a lot of times I'll try to do a prediction for what I think's getting ready to come out based on what needs it the most, what needs a refresh the most. But usually when I try to do that and then they actually reveal, it's like they always just double down on Space Marines or something that doesn't need the refresh. So
Mm-hmm.
while I would love Dark Mechanicum, I think that would be super cool. I look at the Chaos models and nothing in there just screams, "Oh my gosh, you gotta replace this." Um, so I mean, they you mentioned Necrons, that's been rumored that a full like I don't want to say a full Necron refresh or anything like that's going to happen, but I mean they're definitely going to, from what I hear, come out with some new HQ units, maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe a refresh of some of those older HQ models because those could use some love, but just to get rid of the resin models. And Steve, I know you're being a Necron player. Is that something you'd be
Hmm.
interested in, or is it just make you groan thinking, "Oh no, one more thing I have to feel inclined to go purchase and put together"?
No, no, I like the idea of HQ because that's usually a single model.
Yeah,
Not too hard to go and because I have enough to do what I need to do right now. Um, but yeah, some of the Satan models could use a little bit of a buffing and shining,
mm-hmm.
for sure. There are some like key characters that are missing, but at the same time, right now they don't have any rules, so I think that'd be kind of fun to kind of add a couple of those guys in. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, I guess they would do that
Um,
with the Codex when they come out with the Necron Codex,
right, right.
and I think that's
So
that's coming up, right?
I
that's
think so.
is that spring or is that one of the next ones?
I think it was
I
one of the
guess.
next ones. I think it was fall,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
or no, I'm
Okay.
sorry, not fall. The winter
Q4.
releases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that would
All
make
right.
sense if they came out with some new HQ units for Necrons. Then that
Mm-hmm.
would roll nicely into the new Codex, and then they could print that out for the Codex. Would be pretty cool
Because they are kind of lacking, and it feels like we've talked about it before. It feels like 10th edition is very HQ and character centric,
for sure.
and some of the stuff. So everything they have right now is fairly generic, So it'd be cool to see something new.
Yeah, and Lawson, you mentioned the Dark Mechanicum. A lot of people, and I saw this on Tabletop Tactics. They did a battle report, and they just took AdMech and then chaosified them and made
Mm-hmm.
them Dark Mechanicum looking. But AdMech's supposed to get. I'm not a big AdMech fan. I liked the storyline and the narrative from the Angels of Death on Warhammer TV. I like that. That was cool. They have kind of a
Mm-hmm.
mystique about them, and I think there was even a Hammer and Bolter episode that had some AdMech stuff in it. I always thought they're cool, but they're just not my particular jam. So, but AdMech players, I know they would be welcoming of new models, so might get something there. I've also, Steve, heard about Dark Angels getting some big
Yeah.
rebrand or refresh.
Everything I've heard and read, it's looking like the something similar to the Black Templars refresh,
Right.
which would play out about right because I mean they just resigned a bunch of those units to kind of legends sort of status anyway.
Hmm.
The bikes are old, the speeders are old, and like I said, I think the current land speeder, if you're not in the Primaris size, I think they're in the legends category, which kind of stinks because some of their main units are revolve around those sort of things, So I think they're going to get Primarisified, if that's a word.
Hmm. It is
All
now.
the death, all the Deathwing models are previous Terminators. So now you have the new Terminators. I don't know. They're definitely due. And I think that would be a chip shot for Games Workshop. Though
Right.
it shouldn't be that would be an easy one to do, and it's going to sell. I mean, I might. I won't say I might. We know the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I I think I don't know if they need a complete refresh, but a new box of some kind with
Hmm.
it would be cool to see a couple of new models, them to lean a little more into the color scheme, especially since now with the Space Marine Codex they're departing from that a little bit, less chapter specific and more just generic
Hmm.
Space Marines. So I think that'd be a welcome addition. Apart from 40K, there is they keep talking about the old world and what that's going to be. Uh, I mean, I'm thinking that they may actually come out with a full release or at least give a release window for sometime next year, maybe Q4, Q3 next year, 2024. Lawson, I know uh, you're not necessarily a fantasy player. There's a little bit here and there, but any interest in the old world? I've talked to Steve and I have talked about this, and I actually my first game was Warhammer Fantasy way back in the day, and then before I actually jumped in with 40K. But any interest in this old world stuff if they bring it back?
That's a tough question. I play a lot of the Total War Warhammer series
Yeah.
on PC,
Mm-hmm.
and it is set in the old world. So I played a lot of factions, characters, things like that from essentially from the old world. So it would be really neat. I would really think about it. They would have to release some pretty stellar models and really convince me to do it. Which let's be honest, it's not hard. Um, but I would think about it. If nothing else, I would for sure probably pick up some of the mummies
Yep.
from the
Oh
Cetra
yeah,
and his
yeah.
faction, and if nothing else, use them as regular skeletons in my Age of Sigmar Soulblight Gravelords,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm.
maybe something along those lines. Kind of pick up some good looking skeleton models or good looking other models that I can use elsewhere, and then if it continues, which it probably will, then I'll end up with an army at some point. So it's very possible.
Yeah, it's just I don't know if I can handle yet another game system.
Right.
It's just like more, man, especially if the rules are retro. And I only played a little bit of the Warhammer Fantasy, but I mean, when I was playing all the angles and you got to rotate the bases to point towards when you were doing ranged attacks, that kind of stuff will drive me insane if I have to do that in addition to 40k, and if I'm playing boarding actions and all this extra stuff, and now I've got yet another game to worry about. So I'm all aboard. I think the models, what they've shown so far, look really good, and I like the idea of it. I just don't know if I could do another game, right? Just have more time to do another game.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Not here.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe they'll do a full reveal. If nothing else, we'll get a really cool trailer, I would think. Um,
This is true. True.
And then I'm guessing that they'll do some stuff for Kill Team. That's another rumor that's coming up
Mm.
with Warhammer Day. Um, it's hard for me to get excited about Kill Team anymore, just because 40k now has combat patrol. They've got the boarding actions if you want to play a smaller game. I, don't- I don't see a lot of love for Kill Team personally, but maybe there's a huge following and people are still playing, but I haven't played Kill Team, Steve, since I played
Mm.
you. Like it was like a year ago.
It's been some time, yeah. And I know people are still playing because I know there's still tournaments and stuff out there. I'm predicting summer of 2024, the next rule set and stuff for Kill Team, because that'll be about 3 years. Um, I don't know.
Mm,
I think they're gonna have to do something because I don't necessarily feel the woohoo
yeah,
about Kill Team like I used to do. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to want to because it does not carry over as far as like keeping my brain focused on the rule set stuff right now.
I mean, it's still fun,
Um,
right? I mean,
oh, it's still
I,
fun. No, no lie, no lie.
but it's just it's almost too many rules, too much of a departure
Mm,
from 40k. Whereas I thought combat patrol and boarding actions kind of had that sweet spot where
mm-hmm.
if you want to play a smaller game, you want to play something a little faster, they did a really good job with boarding actions in ninth edition, and now carried it over to combat patrol, which takes a little longer. Boarding actions is much faster. I would say that's more of your that's kind of like the new Kill Team in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, not to disparage Kill Team, I think it's a good game. I just think it doesn't necessarily have a place in the larger scheme of things, but maybe that's just a biased opinion based on what we play. Who knows? The final prediction or the rumor that I've heard is potentially a new release date for what we're calling Epic 30K. What's the full
Yeah.
name of it?
Oh, is that the Legionary
Lizzie, something
Imperialis?
like that. Yeah, it's a very
Yeah,
gothic
yeah,
name for Epic 40K, Epic 30K, whatever they're gonna call that.
yeah. They made it pretty clear that it's going to be Horus Heresy timetable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going back to calling it Epic 30K.
Yeah. I mean, this looks cool. I've seen of course,
Mm-hmm.
the terrain looks awesome to me. I like it on a smaller scale. That's a really cool game, but I have the same problem with that I do with Old World, that I do with Kill Team,
Mm-hmm.
It's just I only have so much time and so much focus and
Mm-hmm.
so much patience for painting and assembling models. Lawson, any desire to play another game, whether it's Kill Team or the new Epic, the miniature 40K?
Not necessary, not for Kill Team. I mean, you touched on that pretty well and echoed most of the things that I feel. Combat Patrol and boarding actions exist. Why play Kill Team when I could play those? And I mean, no offense to anybody who plays Kill Team, I've played it, I enjoy it, but if I could play Combat Patrol or boarding action, and I feel like that more ties into my actual 40K games, like I
Mm-hmm.
can translate that over really well. And you had said that already, so no, not for Kill Team. As far as Epic 30K is concerned, I've thought about playing actual 30K, but for the same reasons again that you kind of mentioned, I didn't really go that direction because they have all that extra stuff. You have when you shoot a big weapon, you have this disc that measures the radius of the
Yeah,
explosion, and then it's another layer of complexity that I never really wanted to pursue.
yeah,
I kind of just like being able to play. I like what I have now, and adding more to it, I think, would really push me away from wanting to do that. Plus, I have so many games already, and it takes us hours to finish one game. Let's not add 5 more games to it.
yeah. Well, I mean, they got to have something for everybody. So, um,
True.
all right. So, lastly, let's go around the room here, the virtual room. What is our Hail Mary, our hopes and dreams for what's our one thing that we really hope that they're going to announce that they probably won't, but we can dream. I'm always going to say, some kind of Votan models, but I doubt that. So I'll throw out more one that's maybe a little bit of an easy prediction that they could release a new model or something for Votan. But I'll throw a bigger one out there. I would love for them to come out with a teaser or something for a reboot of the Battlefleet Gothic game with the
Hmm.
so like with the little spaceships. That's just
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
equivalent of Star Wars Armada. I mean, they used to have this game and they discontinued it many years ago. But to me, it fits nicely into the boarding action stuff and to have the whole Arcs of Omen storyline and narrative. And I would love to have this very high level battle with ships and the whole deal, and then start to zoom in towards the landfall, drop pod scenario with a 40K game, and then even go closer with maybe a combat patrol or even a kill team boarding action, something like that. I think that would be really cool just to fit the whole narrative. But then again, I'm going back on what I just said, which is I don't know if I could take another game, but hey, it would be cool if they came out with another game. So anyway, that's my shot in the dark. Steve, what have you got?
No, I'm 100% with you on the Battlefield Gothic because I do enjoy the PC game. I guess I am going to make an exception as that's one
You get
I would add
you
that
get into
as another game.
okay.
Well, yeah, because I feel like the other ones I've always been looking to shoehorn that rule set with this rule set and make them kind of compatible in my head
Hmm.
so where I can just flow from one to the other. But this one would be completely different. I mean, you're talking more almost simulator style kind of tabletop as opposed to what we play now, and I think that'd be okay.
Hmm.
I don't think that would be a hard sell. I think I'd maintain the interest in it enough that I'd like to do that because the whole void battle stuff is really cool.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think we've talked about it before. We really hit boarding actions hard. I felt when it came out,
Hmm.
that was one of the few sets that whole terrain set. I sat down and I plowed through it, and I was excited to do it, and I just tried to get it finished as fast as possible because I wanted to get to it.
Yeah.
Um, but I kind of feel like it's died on the vine a little bit in a way. Not our like of it, but it just like it was like poof.
Well, 10th
It's
edition
got
kind of did that, and
yeah.
not that it was a bad game, it just took the wind out of
Hmm.
its sails a little bit, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's all right. All right, so we got 2 votes for Battlefield Gothic. Lawson, any last minute predictions?
First, let me say, if Battlefleet Gothic did become a thing, you might be able to twist my arm.
Consider it twisted.
Then I'm interested.
Okay, well,
I,
we'll just go with that. We'll stick with
okay.
we'll just put all of our mojo onto Battlefleet Gothic. So we'll throw all of our predictions in the ether towards Games Workshop, and maybe we'll convince them to come out with Battlefleet Gothic. All right, you heard it here first. Battlefleet Gothic teaser coming on Warhammer Day. I have nothing to back that up, but just know it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
And
Wouldn't it be
if we're
something
right,
if it does?
That's right.
exactly. And if it does happen, you can thank us.
That's right. You heard it here first, folks. All right, let's switch over now to the Space Marine Codex. Has been announced. It is coming out. It's I guess by the time you may be hearing this, it may be already out. Lots of cool models, lots of the new dice and their fancy marbled look. It's got me thinking. Even though I don't really play Space Marines outside of Space Wolves, those dice look sweet. Looking at that, but we talked about this on the previous episode. But now that more of the information is out, and Lawson, I know you've actually sat down and kind of poured through all of that, all of the noise, and wanted to hit us with some of the higher level details on the new codex. Specifically, I think what a lot of people that are interested in picking this codex up, and I know you as well, the detachments. That's kind of the thing that everybody's looking at right now. Any out of all the detachments that are coming out, any ones in particular that stand out more than the others that you've seen?
So I play salamanders, and obviously the detachment that is themed, I say themed very lightly, themed around the salamanders, where it improves your flamers and kind of ties in for you being able to get into transports and jump out of transports and just kind of do all the shenanigans like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that one, when it was teased, caught my eye, and I really have been looking at that one a lot. And I got to look at the breakdown for that and kind of see what that looked like. And it is definitely as cool as I thought it would be. However, the detachment for the Imperial Fists, honestly, that one looked really good too. That one focused more on shooting armies that just stand still. You do more damage and you're just better if you just stand still. But they had ways to improve that where you can get some extra movement shenanigans outside of your turn. So you could kind of move back 6 inches. I think it was a stratagem where you could move back 6 inches outside of your movement phase, outside of your turn and your opponent's turn,
Mm-hmm.
and then but it wouldn't count as you having moved, so you'd still get these standstill benefits.
Oh
It was really neat.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was. I, I really wasn't interested in it, and then I saw it and was kind of seeing some of the breakdowns on it. And I was like, oh, you know what? That's kind of cool. I might actually have to try that. But the other one that was more White Scar themed was also really neat. I don't. It's not going to benefit me necessarily, but it was really cool. You could advance and charge, and you had extra fighting stuff. So if you play Space Wolves, hint hint, you may want to run that detachment because it might be pretty cool, and you can actually do that now, which is pretty sweet. So there, the Salamanders one stuck out because I'm
Sure.
biased, but overall, I think they're all really, really good. And to be totally honest, I'm probably gonna have to try them all. Some of them are obviously not gonna mesh well, but I think I want to try all of them. All of them look really good. I like that they're focusing in on different play styles, so that way you can pick a play style and then go that direction instead of having the entire here's the whole book, figure it out. It's a lot more focused in and tailored, and I for one appreciate that. I don't like having 50 billion different choices.
Yeah.
I still have 50 billion choices, but it's more confined, so to speak.
Yeah, I like the fact, and Steve and I have talked about this too. It's like I like the fact where, on one hand, I will miss some of the chapter specific rules and buffs that you could get, and it just made you feel like, oh man, I picked this chapter and I get these new fancy rules to take to the game, and it feels different than every other. So I miss a little bit of that, but I like the flexibility at the same time of, they're all Space Marines. You just have a different flavor, and maybe this game you want to. For example, you're playing Salamanders, which they have one flavor. Well, maybe you want to go all melee one time. What if you wanted to do that, and that's kind of how you wanted to run it? Well, instead of having to say, "Oh no, now I got to go buy a different army, completely different codex, and go down that route. You just pick a different attachment and pick different models, and you paint them however you want. So there's a lot of flexibility built into this. However, this is the big caveat. One of the things I wanted to discuss here. Even though all these detachments are really cool, the question still remains, you know, in order to quote unquote get this content, these detachments, you have to buy the book. But I mean, really, it's just like once you read it, that it's done. There it is. You can reference it.
Mm-hmm.
The issue I have, and we've talked about this multiple times, is that this is all printed, and within this codex, though, I've seen with some of the reviews online that the points for the models are different on the in the print and the codex, and then they reference like a QR code, like, hey, if you want the updated points, go here, and they want you to go to the app or go online, which begs the question, why even put the points in the codex to begin with? Like, why
Mm-hmm.
why would you do that when you know you're going to you're telling everybody to go to the digital? I guess they feel like they have to cater to the folks that don't necessarily have the app or want to go digital and they want to stay in print. But I don't know. I think this is really confusing to new players. It's just confusing in general. And anytime where they're looking to say, look at the print stuff. This is where we want you to spend your money. Go buy this codex. Go do this. Go do that. And then at the same time, they're saying, well, also go subscribe and to Warhammer Plus and get this app. And this is where all of the updated stuff is. So I mentioned this before on our previous episode where I feel like Games Workshop is almost like a company divided, where they've got one half of the organization is all print, all books, and that's where they're gonna put all of their mojo is on the print side, and like don't forget about us. And then you've got this newer digital version of Games Workshop that is over there creating content and saying no, use the digital side, and they just won't make a choice. Like they're too afraid to leave the the folks that have been using the print for so long. They're too afraid to leave them behind and go all in
Mm-hmm.
on digital. And I don't know, maybe I'm alone on this, but I just feel like that they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, and they're just making it more confusing. So, Steve, what are your thoughts on this?
I think they have, with the quarterly data slates coming out and the points updates, just like we're talking about,
Hmm.
they have converted to a digital system. They just haven't admitted to it yet,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they just haven't embraced it. I think the problem is like it is, in my opinion, it is a digital system. You can't get the stuff on the app without buying the codex, which just has a 16 character code or whatever that is in it.
right.
Man, that's digital. Because as soon as that book is printed next quarter, I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but there could be enough change in it. You're either going to have to lean on the app with updated information, or you're going to have to print off these data slates, and that's just really infuriating. Um, I'm like you. I'm just like, man, pick a horse and ride that horse.
I mean, easier said than done, right? They've got to
Sure,
they've got to
absolutely.
figure all this out, and we talked about this too. I don't mind the coda. I don't mind the print. I'm all about.
No, I love them,
I love
but
that, but they could have they could have just released the codex honestly
mhm,
with just the detachments and left off the data sheets. I know that may sound terrible, but it would have been better in my opinion, because the data sheet stuff is what's going to change. The points are going to change the
mhm,
most. The detachments, they can say, these are the rules for it, and this is the ability stuff that you get, and then everything else is digital. And to me, that
mhm,
would have been a better move, because if you just love Space Marines and that's your whole thing, then you're not just buying the book for the 6 pages of detachments. That's not the reason you're buying the book, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons,
right.
but you're buying the book because you want some kind of identity, right? You want, like, okay, look, I'm all in on this army, and so I want everything to do with this army that they sell. So any type of book that has really cool art or more lore or maybe some tips on painting, I'm going to go all in and buy this book and the limited edition and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We could talk about this forever and ever, but I just feel like the Space Marine Codex is yet another example of where Games Workshop needs to pick a side, and I thought 10th edition would be it. It looks like we're going to have to wait until 10.5 or 11th edition or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I own all the books. I still have them, but I ended up just selling the 9th edition ones to like a local shop for I got like $40 for all these books and felt like a terrible person. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, look at the data cards they printed and published and sold, and then I mean, they barely hit the street, and they were completely revamped.
Yeah.
You know, they were almost not useless, but nearly useless.
Well, they're doing that now with the codex.
Yeah,
They have data
yeah,
sheets in
yeah.
the codex, and there are changes there. So if you bought the cards when the stuff first came out, even though they were very inexpensive, if you bought the cards, now those were rendered almost useless within the first couple of weeks because they sent out the updated digital versions. And so, okay, you got those, and now you're buying the codex, which has new ones, and then in just a few weeks, I'm sure after that, they'll do another balanced data slate, and now those are rendered useless. So it's like, what? You're going to have a big pile of crap that you're not going to be able to use anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It hurts.
Yeah. Anyway, I know this sounds like a super negative, and I mean, I just wish they've got a great product. I wish that they would pick one or the other. But anyway, well, I'm sure we'll see more. I'm still a sucker. I'll buy the codex with the army whenever it comes out. The one that I'm playing, I'll definitely buy it and just kind of deal with it because I like the lore and the art and everything that comes along with it. But hopefully they will lean more heavily into the digital side, and we'll cover more of the codex releases in the months to come. All right, let's wrap the final bit of our show here. We've had some combat patrol battles lately, and Steve, you and I had a pretty epic one. But actually, first, I want to, Lawson, we have another friend of the show. You played against Mallory, and I'm very interested to hear how that went, and especially with, I think is this your first or second combat patrol game? I know you're normally playing the larger 40K games, but was this the first combat patrol game you played or second?
This was technically my second. My first combat patrol was against you.
Yeah.
This was, however, my first combat patrol playing my Space Marines. I finally got my Space Marines painted up and ready to go for combat patrol. So first time trying that out. That was it was interesting. The overall experience was really good. I always have a blast playing. So of course it was just a ton of fun to play.
Yeah.
There were some interesting points. It was so Mallory played Drukari, and in the Drukari Combat Patrol short version, they've got they have one transport and another kind of damage thing. They look like boats. They're basically space boats.
Very pointy
and
space boats.
They're so pointy.
Like stabby.
You got to be careful.
You go hurt yourself. It's like stepping on a Lego. It's rough. But it was two space boats and then one small squad of Incubi, which are like melee guys, her Archon, and then some regular Cavalite warriors, regular shooter dudes. And it was a cool game. The mission was weird. It was called Display of Might. It was one of the combat patrol missions in the core rules, and it was a cool mission. You had 4 objectives, 2 in each deployment zone, 2 in no man's land. But the 2 in no man's land were considered symbolic sites, and the rules, as written in the Codex, led me to believe that you could only control those objectives if you had a character on that objective, because it said they are considered symbolic sites, and you only control them if you have a character on them. And it felt weird, and it felt very unfair because I had 2 characters. I had a librarian and a captain. It just was part of the combat patrol. She only had her Archon, and that was it. So it was automatically we're either gonna just tie, and I'm gonna take one, and she's gonna take the other, or she has to try and contest me, and I still get to go take one for free. So it felt a little odd just in that particular matchup with that particular mission. So we tweaked it and kind of made them regular. You could capture them with any unit and didn't have to be a character, but you would still get the bonus victory points if you used a character.
Oh,
So we
that's
made
good.
a couple of changes to make
Yeah,
sure
that
it's
makes
still
sense.
played fair. But it was good. She had one of her, I think it was the Ravager. It's the one that doesn't carry people but has extra guns. It did not die. I threw everything at it, and it would not die. Toughness 9. It's just toughness 9. And no. I threw the librarian and Terminator armor, all 5 of my Terminators, my captain, and my Inferno squad, and I couldn't kill it. I got it down to 1 wound, and I could not kill it, and it held the objective at the very end. And it's crazy. Toughness 9 is no joke, and it's bananas.
I can personally attest that Drakari Combat Patrol is no joke, man. It is hard to play against.
It was a fantastic game. I just kind of wish the rules are maybe a little bit more clear, or maybe, I don't know, maybe my eyeballs just weren't working and I read it wrong or something. It just kind of felt very, hey, she has 1 character. How is this balanced?
Yeah, I could see that being a problem, and I know that Mallory is a new player and doesn't have like all these past editions of knowledge and experience, and sometimes that's a good thing. It doesn't confuse you and muddle your brain. Like I'm thinking about it. Wait a minute, back in 8th edition, we used to do this and we used to do that, and I get the rules confused. So that's a good thing for her. But I'm always interested in her perspective when she plays a brand new game. It's like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. This is how it plays in this other game that I'm used to, et cetera, et cetera. So any particular takeaways that she had from the game that may be helpful for players that are new, their listeners?
She said she kind of wished things were just explained a little bit more straightforward. What did she say exactly? She said,
yeah, join the club.
she she said they use too many words to explain one thing.
Oh my gosh. If that's just the definition of Games Workshop. Like if you read a novel written by anybody that does Games Workshop stuff, like I'll read a paragraph and I'm like, you could have just summarized that in 1 sentence. Why are you using all these fancy words that I have to go look up? And maybe that's just me not being intelligent enough to understand them. But I'm like, why do you say all this? And even in the White Dwarf, when I read some of these articles, I'm like, I have no idea what you just said in some of this stuff. So yeah, I'm with her. Like I wish they would even simplify the explanations, but I'm sure it's not easy. I don't want to oversimplify the task.
You guys hit the dad hammer credo on the head, man. Words bad, simple good, and you did it. You made it simple, but balanced, and reasonable. But yeah, all those words. Who wants words?
But it's weird that the display of might mission. I think I haven't played that. We've rolled random every single time I've played, and I haven't played the display of might. But yeah, I mean I've been rolling or playing Chaos Space Marines lately, and I've only got 1 character. So if you've got multiple characters, you're at a distinct advantage, so that you can go just camp on an objective and get extra victory points. I mean, how do you combat that? And other than making a house rule, how do you combat that?
Well, not to mention that they're hard to move. I mean, you're going to have probably at least one of those 2 attached to a unit. So you have
Yeah.
to wipe out, 5 Space Marines before you can ever wipe the character out. I mean, it's like, we'll get to it in a little bit, like Mario Kart, the little turtle bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The turtle shell
No,
floating around.
I'm with you. So, okay. So Lawson, who ended up taking the victory on this one?
I took the victory on this one because of
Because you cheated.
the double character.
Oh.
Of course. It was the double character definitely helped me out here. I attached my librarian to one of my Terminator squads, or my only Terminator squad, and I used Deep Strike and put them on the objective turn 2. So they
dirty.
just
Yeah.
Well,
Not cool.
in Display of Might, you get double victory points, right? So you get victory points for owning it, or you get victory points for having a character on it, but you get more victory points if the character stayed on it for multiple turns in a row. So I just used Deep Strike, dropped that really big brick of essentially 6 Terminators on that objective, and they sat there for 3 turns. And I gained all those extra points. So I won, but it was close. I will say it was very close. It was 63 to 59.
Oh,
nice.
So
snap.
it was only 4 points. Well, Steve will recognize this one. Her Archon is terrifying. That Archon ran into my Terminators and just buzzsawed through 4 of them.
And Terminators are no joke. In 10th edition, right? So
it's scary. Well, the anti-infantry +3 and damage is 2, and you get 6 attacks. You're wounding very easily. You get a bunch of attacks, and every time she had one of her victory points, or secondary objectives, sorry, was every time she kills a model with her Archon, she gets victory points.
That's right.
That was a ton of her points right there. She almost maxed out on that secondary.
Doesn't her Archon get extra attacks every time? What's that? I don't know. They have some sort of pain.
Like power
every time
pain.
They inflict pain. They get extra something. I don't know. It was horrible. That's all I remember. It was just horrible.
I don't know. So unfortunately, I was trying to learn how my Space Marines operated, so I didn't really.
How dare you
read through all of it? Well, sorry, I didn't read through all of her.
How dare you focus on your army? What a terrible person. No, I whenever you're trying to, what's funny is that whenever you're trying to teach someone else how to play, like, because I've done this multiple times, try to teaching new folks how to play this game that I love so much, and I want them to have a good time. Like I want them to. It's not about me winning or losing or whatever. I just want them to understand and have fun. But whenever you're trying to explain, like, what you should do next, like, okay, now don't I wouldn't move that over there. You can, but I wouldn't because of XYZ reason. You have to know their rules enough to be able to give them good advice. Otherwise, it feels like you're trying to skew the game in your favor. But it's hard, right? It's hard enough to know your own army rules, much less somebody else's, especially when you're trying to help them out.
But I mean, that was also my first time playing against her Drukhari.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the more I do it, the easier it'll get.
Well, it sounds like you had a good game. Very, very cool. And looking forward to hearing more battle reports in the future. Speaking of a good time, so Steve and I played, and we played multiple times. We played against each other multiple times. So I'm playing Chaos Space Marines, and this is part of the Dadhammer League. And Lawson, I've recently added you and Mallory into our league, so we'll just count this one into the point. So if anyone listening is still interested, you know what, even though we already started, if you want to join, feel free to sign up. I mean, it's not like we have some kind of crazy hard cutoff. I was trying to start October 1st, and we're going to go through December 1st just to put a deadline on the overall league. But if you want to join just to kind of be a part of the fun, please do so. Go to our website and sign up. But Steve and I played Chaos Space Marines on my side and Dark Angels on Steve. And I don't want to necessarily go into the full battle report here, because really the whole game, it was the most insane thing I've ever seen. We're playing, and I've got my Hellbrute up in the middle, and I'm playing pretty aggressive. Steve was a little less aggressive, but at one point, Steve had to roll a 9-inch charge. He had to get a 9 on his charge with his Dreadnought. So he's got a Dreadnought, his turn. I've already done Overwatch, so I can't do anything there. Steve makes you make your 9-inch charge. You go in, you do Tank Shock, which is an amazing stratagem in 10th edition. You do Tank Shock on my fully healed and ready to go Hellbrute. And Hellbrute's also toughness 9, I believe. So you go into you charge in, you get to roll, was it like 12, 13, 14 dice? I don't know, for your...
12, it was 12 dice, yeah.
Okay, so you get to roll all these dice to do Tank Shock. You get the full 6 mortal wounds maximum as part of Tank Shock for 1 CP. So now my Hellbrute, just on the charge, is down to 2 wounds remaining. And I mean, this is kind of...
It was glorious.
This is kind of the game, right? This is it. So Steve comes in, and this is turn 2, and I'm thinking, all right, well, and Steve, you were saying, I don't think I remember you telling me.
Yeah.
I've never beaten you.
And I quote, David, I don't think I've ever beaten you. I mean, it looked that good.
I did, and I'm looking at Steve, and I'm like, "Yep, this will be the one." I mean, because
Yeah.
just the way that it worked out. I don't know. I probably didn't position my units correctly. Just I was a little overly aggressive, and wasn't anticipating the dreadnought making the 9-inch charge for whatever reason. Whatever. So he makes the charge, comes in, tank shock. I'm down to 2 wounds, and then it's the fight phase, and charging units fight first. So Steve's got his dreadnought fist of doom, whether it's like 5 or 6 attacks. I want to say you're hitting on 3s,
Yep.
right?
It's 5 on 3s. No, 5 on 2s.
Was it?
No,
it was 3s. It was 3s.
No, it's 5 on 3s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 3s.
So 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, and
blanked them all.
It was like it was all 2s and 1s, and you'd already used
That
your
was it.
command reroll. Nothing you can do. No, your Oath of Moment was on a different unit, so there was no rerolls on the hits. Nothing you could do about it. And I'm like, oh goody, I get to fight back. And so
I only needed 2. I only needed 2.
You only needed 1 hit because I think your damage was 3 per hit.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you
that's
only
right.
needed 1 successful hit, and that'd have been it. So I got to fight back with my Hellbrute, and I had 5 attacks, and I think I'm hitting on 4s. But I did the dark packs, and I got some extra stuff in there. And long story short, he failed his saves, and I took out a 10 wound dreadnought. I fought back. So think about this epic clash.
What?
He comes in,
Yep.
charges in, tank shock, takes him down, and then I fight back and completely destroy the dreadnought after being charged. It was the most insane turn of events. And then I went on to, that was it. And then I had really good shooting rounds, and that was game over. So I ended up winning in pretty substantial fashion when like 10 minutes before I'd been like, well, good game, Steve. I lost.
See,
yeah.
How are you gonna do Medicae Steve like that? He didn't deserve that, and you just had to bully him. This was his one time where he could have beat you, and you snatched victory away.
I can't help when Steve rolls 2s and 1s. Like I can't help him out. I don't know what to do.
It was so bad.
I mean,
it was so. I thought about throwing my dice away.
Hey, sometimes you need to remind your dice that you're the adult here.
Well,
so you throw them out the window.
Yeah, but the other thing, and I was telling Steve, is after the game was over, like this was the equivalent of like I'm down by 20 points in basketball, and I somehow figure out a new rule that allows me to hit a 20-point shot at the buzzer.
That's very
to
specific.
Be like, hey, I'm getting ready to walk into the locker room. Just kidding. There's some kind of unwritten rule here that allows me to score 20 points in this shot, and it's behind my back while I'm in the locker room.
Swish.
Swish. And I come back from the grave. But, I even though that was a crazy turn of events, lost in that when I played you, when neither one of us really make any tactical mistakes, like we move the way we're supposed to, we do all the things that we're supposed to do as we've played so long, and we know what kind of how to use our armies and stratagems and all that. Everything's going the way it's supposed to, and then you still can't roll. Like it's still a dice game, but when you win or lose just based on the dice rolls, you kind of feel okay about it. You don't feel as bad. You're like, this is why we do it.
Yeah, because it hurts less, because then you kind of like, I gave it my best. You can walk away knowing you did absolutely everything you could have possibly done to win that game. Now it still hurts.
Yeah.
When you roll all those attacks, like Steve should have just totally knocked your Hellbrute to the ground. But
rude.
So that's I'm
yeah, fair.
Listen, man,
I know.
He's 6 mortal wounds on the charge, and he's got 5 attacks that damage 3.
I know. I'm with you on this.
It's a feels bad moment.
Yeah,
and it's really sad, but because my particular combat patrol, that poor dreadnought's back hurts so bad from the team. Because it's just once he's dead, there's just not a lot left.
Yeah. Well, it was a very epic game. Probably one of the most fun combat patrol games I've played.
It was awesome.
Not because has nothing to do with because I won, just because that epic moment. It was just such an insane thing. And honestly, Steve and I were laughing the whole time. Like, I can't believe this just happened.
It was great.
Such a fun game, really, really enjoyable, and I mean, I can't wait to play again. So lots to discuss here. More on Combat Patrol. We'll have more games and more battle reports on this podcast in the future. But that'll actually wrap our show for Bulgers and Booze. And man, I just wanted to say, Lawson, really appreciate you joining. Hopefully, we can have you on in the future with your deep rules knowledge and all of your fancy Thousand Suns circus magician shenanigans that you bring to the table. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a blast. It's been great to come hang out with you guys and make sure you guys get back to your respective spaceships safely. As to whether or not I return, that is up to the Weaver of Fates. I have to let him decide.
Very on brand with the Warhammer. Very good.
Yes, got to do my best.
I appreciate it.
Always welcome, though.
Yes, always.
Unless I play Nurgle and bring the pox, right?
No,
is that frowned upon?
We'll have to kick you out.
Okay.
Well,
it's a good thing. It's okay.
Thank you, Lawson, for joining. Thank you, Medicae Steve, for your time, your attention, and your service. I hope you enjoyed, everyone listening. I am David the Warboss, and we will see you next time on Dad Hammer. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.